From Los Angeles and Nashville, get ready to go behind the scenes with Entertainment Dudes. What happens when you pair a director, a voice actor in a world, and some of the most interesting people in entertainment? You're about to find out. And action!
Oh
wait, you're supposed to say that. You're the director.
I'm the director.
Okay.
I'm the director. Actually, you're a director too, though. Aren't you?
I'm a director. I'm more of a director of photography, but
I mean, you've DP'd a ton of stuff,
and I have directed. Yes,
and you have these Emmys because of your
I've only directed a music video that was on CMT, so I'm not here to brag.
I'm not here to brag.
No.
So technically, you can weigh in on this whenever you want to.
Okay, I can weigh in.
And I have done voiceover, so
yes,
you have done voiceover. You're a voiceover dude, but actually last month I did more voiceover work than I did actual videos. It's just a lot of voiceover. I was like,
what happens when you pair a voiceover dude with a voiceover dude?
You begin to do voiceover, and your wife begins to do voiceover, and their friends begin to do voiceovers. My mom just called me and said, I need to get into Actually, my dad said, I need to put my reel together for my voiceover. I was like,
why is everybody coming over to my side of the tracks?
What's happening?
What's going on? I can't juggle.
I can't either, apparently. I just picked these lemons from my tree outside today.
Ooh. Nice.
I have some amazing oranges.
Cat residue on them?
I hope not. They were very high in the tree.
Okay.
That's a really good.
That's a spicy lemon.
That's a really nice lemon. So, today's episode. Now, people keep wondering, like, okay, this is our third week of Just the Entertainment Dudes. I hope you're enjoying the podcast anyways, even though it's just
January.
January.
Everybody's taking a break on January. And guess what?
What?
Well, right now, as we shoot this, actually, it's real time right now, because this will be on tomorrow. Tomorrow. So, good news. The next episode, I'm looking back to my
trusty
calendar, my trusty
that you got on your Raspberry Pi
digital calendar here, and you see this right there. There's somebody in it. We will be having somebody very special on the program.
Very special.
With the last name of Crossman.
Yes. Super Cross. I finally convinced my dad to be on the podcast.
Yes! So now you can see where all of this comes from.
Yes, all of this creative vision comes from. Yes, my dad is incredible. He's an author. He's written 15 books or so. He in the 80s and 90s he did lots of commercials and stuff with Jim Rice, Michael Jackson, all kinds of projects. And it was interesting because he used to be a janitor. Yeah, he traveled all over. He was a musician, and he was just really one of those hippies that went all over the world. And he was working as a janitor at this ad company, and the ad guys are having a freak out session. They're like, we have this thing tomorrow. We got a pitch. We have no idea what we're gonna do. And he was just cleaning the room where they were. And he is a savant, a creative savant, a literal genius. And he said, I know I'm just a janitor, but I got an idea for you. They were that desperate that they're like, okay, fine. Like, janitor, what do you got? And my dad shared the idea with them, and they stopped, and they're like, that's actually very good. That's genius. They're like, can you pitch that tomorrow? And, and so my parents had zero money, like zero. They would literally play bingo to try to win grocery money. And
this was before DoorDash.
This was before
DoorDash. Yeah, so you
so you had to go bingo to play, to win grocery money. And they said he needed a suit because he's pitching to the client, and they didn't have it. They Goodwill, they scraped together everything they had. He got a suit, pitched it, client loved it. And at the same time, they're like, our storyboard artist, something had happened to, he was sick. I don't remember, he wasn't there. They had to do the art. And my dad's like, well, I can draw too. And they're like, so he showed them some of their drawings. He showed them some of the drawings, and they were like, it's incredible. Like, dude, so he draws the whole storyboard. And after that, they started inviting him back, and he ended up, by the end, within 2 years, he was directing, doing all the advertising, commercials, storyboarding, and he won them some of their best jingles that they had, some of their best spots and things.
Man.
And so I guess it's about being at the right place at the right time.
The right place at the right time, man, and not when you're in a down slump, not turning down something because you think it's beneath you or something.
Yeah, because you never know.
Everything you do, there's an opportunity in every job you do.
That's true. That's true.
You never know who you're going to meet or run into. Just be ready with your creativity.
Attitude is everything. Like
I
remember one time I was in high school and I was just cleaning the toilet and I wasn't complaining about it. Had a fantastic attitude. Somebody told my manager, and the manager actually came back and promoted me over the head of the. He's like, "Hey, I've watched your work. I've seen you do this. You never complain. This and promotion." So it's just the attitude about where you are. And I think it's how your attitude you take for life. So it's and I think in this industry too, especially when you get started. It's not like you go hand your resume out and people, it's about who you know and about it. Like, I'm a director. They're like, that's nice. Okay.
Right. But that's also the reason you need to take classes and so forth, because those people, when you're taking those classes, they see you and those are people A lot of times those are an in to the industry. Yeah. And you take classes with those people in the industry.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. So I thought about bringing something a little on the show that could be fun. Maybe not this episode, maybe in a later one.
Does it have to do with the katana behind you?
This katana.
Yes, that katana.
Well, we're about to have some more swords up here too, because my wife is really getting into her ninja stuff. So she's been training. This is actually one that's lethal. So I'm always like, she's like, hey, did you take out the trash? I'm like, Yes, I did that.
It's all about attitude with her as well.
Yeah, attitude. So. Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
I was happy to take out the trash. Oh, please don't kill me. So I was thinking maybe like we could be doing a redneck hillbilly that teaches Russian. I think that would be very good. I'll tell you what, I'll talk about... one of the number one words I ever said, the first thing is to say is yes in Russian. You say da.
Da.
That's it. And then you say очень приятно. Means
очень приятно.
How are you? Or nice to meet you.
If you run into someone by mistake, you go izvernicher.
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 So I think it'd be very helpful for a lot of people to learn Russian through our podcast.
I think so.
Nice. So today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the directing process. For those of you who are interested
Fancy.
So those of you who are interested in getting into directing, or even just wondering how that process works.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I get asked, what's the right way?
Right.
And there is no, there are several paths that you can take whenever you're approaching your directing process. And there is no right way or wrong way. So the reason why I'm talking about is you have your script that you get. If you've written it, sometimes you've written it and you have the vision in your head. Sometimes the script's been given to you and they say, shoot this.
Right.
And you have to develop a vision for it. If you're ever lying in bed at night and you're sitting there and you're picturing images about the day, stories in your head, that's the type of creative process that the director goes through when you read the script. What images pop in your mind? What does it remind you of? Is there a reference? Sometimes if I don't have any idea right away, I have a portfolio, a collection of just places I like to go where there's lots of really creative images. And I know Paul Gerard, when we talk to him, he does the creative direction. He creates concept art. And he even said just about ideas where you pull from places that he goes to his imagination and just likes to let his mind flow. For him, he said if he looks at other things, different pictures or images, sometimes that influences the characters he wants to create, and he'd rather pull it just from his ideas or his mind.
Right.
That's his process. I like this process too, but sometimes I like to find things that motivate or stimulate me. Generally, fantasy style images do it for me, even if it's not fantasy. I love that space and that freedom to be able to create inside of that space. So
we worked on the Villi together, so that was that
was fun. Yes, that's fun. I still want to do the full story. That'd be so fun. But so basically you get your script and I like to read the script because it's important to understand what's on the surface, but then you also look at the subtext. Like, what is the meaning of it? What is the purpose of that story? Why is it there?
Right.
And I think once you find those pieces, the next part is to move into your the casting process. A director does several things. You're going to do a script breakdown. Well, actually, that's kind of like a producer director thing where you look at how many different locations are in there, where are the scenes, what are they going to be do, what props are necessary, who the talent is. Then you're also going to create a shot list for every scene that you have.
Right.
So there's different types of shots that you can do. Some people, I like to start a lot of my filmmakers that I'm working with is on coverage, which is essentially like a wide shot covers the entire scene, two medium shots for every character, close-ups
establish your location,
establish the location,
zoom
medium,
into it.
medium,
Yeah.
close,
Yep.
close.
Yep.
It's very, very nice for if you're doing an interview with somebody, like we did a lot of interviews with the Ramsey show. It's just like wide, medium, medium, close, close.
Yep.
If you've got one camera, fine, wide, close. I do each of them. Nowadays you can do your mediums with your wide because it's 4K or 8K, whatever your camera is. You can know, like I can do this whole entire interview wide and just punch in. I used to not be able to do that. Like when you're shooting on 720 or 1080, there you got 120% before it starts to get grainy, and
you've got no room to.
You don't have that width. So I remember the
right.
first time when we have 4K and you could shoot it and you can zoom in on another 10. You've got 3 shots in one camera. I was like, that's amazing. So
yep. But sometimes there's also to take into consideration the depth of the shot, and when you're wide and 4K, you can't change necessarily the depth. You can with some filters.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it with one lens, sometimes your wide might not have as much depth, and then you go in and then you get more depth on your close-up. So that's something to take into consideration too.
Yes, and it just all depends on your budget, how many cameras you've got, what you're shooting on. So, yes, of course, when you're looking at a concept, you want to take in terms of your budget. Our ideas are very expensive, generally, when you first are creating them in your ideas, and then you have to compare that with what the reality is. How much money do I really have? So, and what can I do with what I have? Once you've determined that, you're figuring out, okay, I can do 2 cameras on this shoot, which means I got to hire the crew, everything like this. You work with the producer to hire the crew. You create your shot list, you create a storyboard. Some directors storyboard, some directors don't storyboard. Whenever you're working in a feature, you're generally storyboarding so that all the concept artists, all of the everyone who's working on the visual effects, if you're shooting in the LED studio, you want to be able to make sure that you're working with your art department, and they need to see your vision on paper. When it's just you by yourself versus a smaller piece, you know what's going on in your head. Storyboard isn't always necessary, but it's good to have. So it's like, what do I do first? Do I do my... how do you make a storyboard if you don't have a location yet? Because you get a story, an idea in your head, and then you get to the location and it completely wipes it out. So I think a lot of the times the 3 of them go together. I usually get a story idea in my head, I picture it, and then I like to go find the locations before I actually make my shot list.
Right.
So because location, there's like one thing they say in industry, location. You can have a small budget in a beautiful location and can make it look epic. Like it could look like a much bigger budget than it is. We've done a lot of interviews, like we said, where you go into an office. Generally, they have white walls, teeny conference room. It's like, which direction do I set up my camera? I always look for what's going to give me the most foreground, middle ground, background.
Oh, window sometimes.
Sometimes the window,
Yes.
which has the most interesting lighting.
Yes.
What's the most interesting visual lighting, and what's the best foreground, middle ground, background. Yeah, sometimes it is against a wall because the office, it's terrible. You don't want to shoot it. So I think the same thing goes in any production when you're working in that space. What does that scene look like? And you want to fill it each frame with as much visually pleasing stuff as possible.
Right.
Sometimes you're set designing, like we worked on music videos. You're building entire kitchens and you're building entire houses. The whole space is getting built. I remember we worked on an Era Church music video, and we pulled out this. We rented this person's house, took everything out of the house that was theirs, reset the entire house because we wanted to make it a 70s and it was more modern. Shag carpets, the whole 9 yards. Shot the entire music video pieces in there, pulled everything back out, put all of their stuff back. And you're doing those things in those spaces to create the visual aesthetic that you want in your how you imagine it. The director needs to come up with each of those ideas. What's the space going to look like? What time is it set? What characters are in the scene? Is what's involved in the process?
And you're forced to think outside the box sometimes, like you were talking about budget earlier. And you've got this vision and you've got this budget. Sometimes you have to think outside the box on how to get your vision done for cheaper. I mean, that's the genesis of ILM, basically. It's like, okay, we have to think outside the box and get this vision done. And I remember one time we wanted an explosion. And it was like, we can't afford an explosion. I ended up developing an explosion using a leaf blower and coffee creamer and a little torch. And you know that if coffee creamer, just plain old coffee creamer, I got a big can at Sam's, gets blown up into dust and you light it, it will create the most mind-blowing explosion on camera.
Do not try this at home.
No. But,
Except do.
Yes. And we were able to get that done for a few bucks. And everybody else is thinking, oh, we have to, create this big jig and have, pyrotechnics involved. And, it wasn't expensive at all. It was a few bucks. So
yeah,
think outside the box, do research.
I remember on a project I was working on when I was in film school.
Uh-huh.
We had this guy got shot. And I needed to do the squibs. Squib is when like an explosion. They'll usually put a small charge on a plastic bag that has blood in it, and it boom, it shoots. And I didn't have a budget for all the squibs and stuff, so I got one of those pressure canisters that you use to spray pesticides.
Yes.
And I put blood in the tube, ran the tube through, pumped the thing up, cut a hole in the shirt, and squeezed the button. When they got shot, on camera, it worked great. There's so many times that you think this isn't going to work, and then you look in camera, it looks real on camera for whatever. But in real life, like the behind the scenes, you're like, this is stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always more than one way to achieve the same result.
Oh yeah, and what's the right way? The right way is the way that works for what you've created.
There's the standard way and the popular way, and then there's a ton of other ways that also work.
I think my favorite thing was before Steadicams, not Steadicam. Steadicam's been around a while, but before any kind of gimbal or anything, there was always how do we get the smooth dolly shot without having to have the dolly? So, you have a dolly, like a Fisher dolly or whatever dolly you're using. Those are huge, expensive things that usually takes a 3-man crew to run. And you're like, we don't have time for the track, so I don't have time, but I want a shot. So I've seen people, I've seen I've seen wheelchairs, I've seen skateboards, I've seen, what did you?
I shot an entire story one time. We didn't have it. I shot an entire story on a Segway. I was literally with the camera on my shoulder.
On the Segway?
Running around on the Segway.
Dude, that's one of my favorite shots.
I think I got a picture of that. So if we find a picture, we'll pop that up. But it was dolly smooth. It was as smooth as anything you'll ever see.
One of my favorite dolly shots was done on a Segway, and it was for Eurovision. Did you ever see that video of that guy? My gosh.
We have a side-by-side of that.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Show that. Let's show that, because that guy, this is creative dolly moves. It was amazing. Yeah. I was blown away. I was like 10 out of 10.
So we got off the track, but we're on treatments. So
yeah. Okay. So one of my favorite parts, and I think one of the most important parts for a director, is actually in the casting process.
Yes.
If a director has done their job right and you've cast very well your characters and you've got good actors for it, then I think that first process about, how do I begin to work with actors? And, there's several different types of methods, like the Italian method. You sit down and you take your script and you don't look up, you read the word, you hear the other person say it, no tones, no nothing, you just back and forth. And then after that, you read the line and look up at the other person, and then you're standing up. So there's this gradual progression into the script as you begin to hear the words. And then you see kind of organically what comes from that process. Other kinds are just, there's people who like to work by themselves. They bring their material, they read it, you come together, and they have already brought something to it.
Come together
right
now.
Don't think anymore.
All right.
Oh, we almost got a strike.
Yeah, almost. That's right. Yeah. Copyright.
Copyright. So, I like to get together and I like to ask questions. So once I've got the script in front of them, working with my actors and they've been reading it, I really love to have just a one-on-one dialogue. Who are you? Tell me about your character. I usually have them go back and they'll script write. I'll have them give notes. I'll give them a week just to think about their character. Then I ask them, I want to know who you are.
Right.
So
which is very important for the subtext when they're actually acting.
Exactly.
Like, yes.
Yeah, and I think there's a good part of that process that they're bringing to the character. It's them. And the earlier I'm giving that to them, the earlier they take ownership of the character and of the story and of the film. And I just love that process of being able to discover who they are. I know who I think, and so I'll kind of guide how I imagine them in my head with the questioning that I ask to kind of lead them in a direction of helping them mold the character, but also taking what they give me out of it and putting it into the character. Right. If a director's done a very good job, by the time I get to set and it's time to start shooting, I've already done my work. Now I almost become a documentary director because I'm shooting what you give me. And I'm just capturing it. And I love that process. I love the organic growth for it. And I love the responsibility of, at that point, it's the actor's show. And I'm there to capture what they give me. And maybe that comes from spending so much time doing stories for people that are real everyday Joes, like with the Dave Ramsey show and different projects that I worked on, that I'm finding the story in what they give me, the questions that I ask them. I apply that same principle when I'm working with actors, and I love that process. It's my favorite part of directing.
Before Ramsey, I mean, I was a investigative reporter and photographer in news, and the same things happens there. You know, you capture the real life story, and I think that helped me tremendously in getting into fiction. I carry a lot of those principles over.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too as a director because you're working with a lot of people who have never been on camera before. Right. You have to make them comfortable. You have to find the best pieces. You have to ask the questions that connect with their heart so it's authentic. And when you pull it out, that's it's very, very challenging. And if you do it well, it's very rewarding because you're creating a story from someone who's never done it before. So I take those same principles into working with actors who know what they're doing, who are comfortable on camera. Right. And I think the results are really, really incredible because it feels so much more authentic to me, and I'm able to work with even some inexperienced actors to help them really pull out that story because I've done it before. Right. So if you're a director, I never knock any kind of storytelling. Like I'm a film director. That's all I do. I think it's great to have a toolkit of experience from everything. So I've directed music videos, commercials, TV shows. I've even done like PSAs for congressmen that are running for office, all kinds of stuff. And I think from that experience, you gather a toolkit of ideas. And in the middle of a shoot, you might think, hey, this would actually work if we did it more like this. Yeah. And music videos free you up to be able to create, sometimes it doesn't have to have a story. You don't have to have a beginning, middle, and an end. It's literally sometimes just ideas, abstract thoughts, chance to really expand what you're safe, comfortable doing when you're producing. And then sometimes those ideas you get while you're making a music video, they transition into, oh, I can use this in the story. It'll be amazing. So I think take every opportunity as a director to say yes, to be able to work with people, inexperienced people, experienced people, you know, films, TV shows, movies. Oftentimes as a director, 99.999% of the time, you're not going to get to direct a TV show right away. Right. You're going to direct something else first. Start small, shoot your own short films. Short films is a fantastic place for a director to cut their teeth on. And a
dentist is a great place to get cut teeth fixed.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Boo.
And thank you for joining Entertainment Dudes podcast.
All right, I'll be quiet now. Okay.
So no, don't be quiet. That's wonderful. This sense of humor is what makes us so rich.
Oh, that was humor.
That was.
That's what that was.
It was an attempt at humor, and an attempt is equally as important.
Well, and you might have to do a video on a dentist as well. So, you know.
Yeah, so then just be prepared. And you got to have lots of good jokes when you're working with the dentist.
For cut teeth. I had a dentist one time. He was named Dr. Rippy.
I had a doctor. Dr. Slaughter was
Dr.
mine, and
Slaughter.
Nurse Blood,
Oh,
and Dr.
God.
Slaughter in Warren, Maine. They were in Warren, Maine.
Dr. Slaughter?
Dr. Slaughter and Nurse Blood.
Oh, golly. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
But what did you say to them? You didn't say anything to them.
No.
Okay. My dentist, Dr. Rippy, I said, "Are you going to Rippy my tooth out?" Spit take. Spit take. I saw it. Okay. We're off the rails again, but okay.
That's also part of the creative process.
Cutting teeth.
Yeah. No, I think kind of going where your imagination goes. Like, how many times do we sit and we're having lunch or doing something and we're making just, who knows, like what instigates an idea, like Bruce's hot sauce. So,
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think, let your imagination go. So
Let it run wild. Yeah.
One thing that I find, like, I like to do is when I'm working with actors, I like to rehearse a lot. And some actors hate rehearsing, but I think I found a really cool compromise because some actors really enjoy rehearsal process and they like it. And if you have an actor that's like, I don't rehearse, and the other one's like, I have to rehearse, well, now you're kind of stuck. So what I like to do is I like to do rehearsal ahead of time, up to about a week and a half to 2 weeks before production. I rehearse a bunch and we try different things. And sometimes one time I had some actors, they kind of got stuck in a rut and they weren't breaking out of this. So I had them do the whole entire thing in Old English. I just said, push it, just do it all in Old English. And they're like, I doth thinkest thou art beautiful. And I was like, more, like as Shakespeare as you can get. And out of that, there came a couple really, really funny moments that we hadn't considered that broke the box that had been stuck in.
Right.
And we actually said, we're not going to have you do Old English, but let's take these two parts and add them to the story. It really made that scene. It sold the scene. So one time I had a couple actors that they weren't listening to each other. They're saying their lines and they're not listening. They're not listening. It's line. I'm like, it's not listening. So what I had them do is I had them turn back to back. And I said, I want you to touch just behind your back, touch each other. Feel your backs. Okay, you're touching. Heads touching. Okay. I said, now I want you to say your lines, but then as that person moves, I just want you to move with them. Mm-hmm. Okay. And hear what they're saying and mirror their movements as you go. And it created a part where they were listening because they're moving at the same place as they're saying their lines, so they're beginning to listen and feel each other. We did that through just a couple of times, and after that, when we faced again, they were listening to each other. So as a director, there's some fun techniques. So where do you get those things? Just working with a lot of people who are not actors before. It just, you learn different things to help them get comfortable.
Right.
And it also thinks in terms of, I like to let them know it's like, it's fun. This process is supposed to be fun. It's rewarding. And then after I've rehearsed a bunch, I take 2 weeks before we start shooting where I don't want you to rehearse anything. I want you to go watch movies. I want you to go have fun. I don't want you to think about the production at all. Like, don't even think about it. Then that way, when we come to the day of production, we run through the scene, we block it a couple times. So what you'll do sometimes is you'll have it on paper in your mind, you'll have a shot list. Sometimes it's very specific because you're trying to accomplish a stunt. You're doing something that's necessary for everything to go exactly as you have it in your mind. I think those scenes I like to storyboard. I like to really shot list those in detail so that I'm prepared for that. Mm-hmm. But other scenes, if it's just an emotionally driven scene and it's character driven and the scene is about the characters, sometimes I get to set and I just throw out my shot list. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Like the shot list, I know what I want to do, but I throw it out and I say, let's block it in this space. So then we let them be inside the space and I watch what my actors give me. And sometimes in that space, there's something they do differently and unexpected that's not in my mind that's better than what I thought about because they know these characters now better than I do. And so I say, I want to capture this, what you've got, let's do it. Maybe it's something they walk over to the window. I don't have the budget to put, I don't have a 5K out there. I can't flag it, so I might say, hey, I really, really love this energy. I love this action. I love when you walked here. Maybe can you walk here to this side by this light instead of over there? Will that still work? Yeah, I think this works. Great. So then I set up my shots based upon what they've given me. A lot of times that's when you're real quick. If you're crushed for time, coverage, especially in those relationship moments when there's not a lot that's happening, I cut back, wide, mediums, close. Maybe a couple of really interesting shots if I have time. I'm working with the AD, working with the producer. Like, hey, we've got 15 more minutes. There's 2 shots I really wanted to get out of this. let's change this angle, and I think this one needs to be a high angle. So every shot communicates a different emotion or feeling. A lot of times people say, like, well, I want to do this particular shot. I always ask my students, why? Why do you want this shot? Why is this important? Why are you doing a close-up now? What does a close-up communicate? Because each shot communicates something different. And even how you place your characters or actors in that shot and environment also changes the perception of the audience, whether very, very subtly or sometimes very powerfully. So I always like to know, why are you cutting to a specific shot?
And you go to the very basics of this. I mean, you probably show students like Citizen Kane and so forth, and show them the reasons for it, because there's very dramatic shot differences in that movie.
Very.
And it kind of, and for the time, very innovative things that they did to get those shots. But
yes,
every shot has a motivation.
Yeah, each of those motivations move the story forward, and that's why it's important to know your characters. Where they're starting, where are they going? I think in good directing, especially when you're working with the characters and in story writing, characters want something. If they don't want something, there's nothing that motivates them. Life is happening to them instead of them happening to life.
Right.
Like we talked about last week, a story is so much more interesting and entertaining when they're in an environment, the person is happening to the environment. They're making choices. There's a catalyst that's propelling them forward. It's driven by, what do they want? Their desire. When that desire is strong enough to propel them forward, you can follow them on this journey. And a lot of the choices that happen, the shots that you make, the things that you decide afterward are all based upon that desire that they want. And I often like stories where they don't get what they want, but they get what they need. Yeah, that's far more interesting, because that's like life. You know, you've got this great plan. It's incredible. I'm going to do this. You get there, and by the end of it, a lot of times you didn't get what you wanted. But if you look back and you realize you got what you needed, I needed to become more patient.
Yeah.
And so maybe he doesn't win the race, but he practiced and practiced and practiced, and he learned, maybe then began to train another kid, and he was coaching and mentoring them, and he just realized through that process, he became more patient, and he became more empathetic towards what other people are going through. He got something he desperately needed to prepare him for what's next.
Yeah.
That's far more interesting, and I like characters that do that. And I have a whole series that I've written where I mapped out 5 seasons of about 30 characters. And in every season, I made sure that they have a need, but they don't get what they need, they get what they want. And they all overlap with each other, so that by the end of the series, all of them got what they need, and none of them got what they wanted. And it took like better part of 3 or 4 months to map it all out, but it's so much more rewarding. I think actors like playing those type of characters too. It's an interesting discovery process for them as well. And so is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? No, I think you need to discover what way works for you best. But you do want to plan. You do want to understand what is the purpose of the story, what is being said, understand what shots mean and what they communicate, and when to use them. Editing. Get into editing. If you're a director, edit. Like, you got to edit your own stuff. Because if you're a director and you understand editing, you understand pacing, you understand the tempo, you understand emotional beats very, very well. And when you're directing, you can realize, like, I don't need that shot. I've already cut it. I'm always editing in my head as I'm directing, because I already know, like, nope, I'm not going to use it.
And it sounds like in directing as well as acting, musicality is very important. There's a lot of the same terminology being used.
Yeah, I say it's like a dance.
Yeah.
And you got to realize, if you start off doing a waltz and suddenly in the middle of it, there's you're doing like the jitterbug. And that's not a part of the plan. It's because you change the pacing, you change something. People who are watching it, it's going to throw them off. They're going to be like, wait a minute, I thought I was watching a waltz. Where's this coming from?
Right.
So that's that emotional beat. Like, how do I know when am I looking at here? When am I looking here? And I think I mentioned it earlier on in one of our episodes, but I do an illustration where I got 2 people and they're standing side by side, and I'm talking to my audience. And I'm going to say, I'm going to do a simple process. See this pen? Okay, person A, you're going to throw this pen to person B. But you're going to say, hey, I expect you to catch this. Okay? And then throw it to them. And then I asked my audience, I said, okay, tell me where you're looking throughout this whole scene. Okay? Oh, I said, hey, loser, catch this. Okay? That's what it was. Hey, loser, catch this. And then they throw it. And I said, okay, when we first look at the scene, what are you looking at right now before we even get started? And everyone's like, well, both of them. Okay, I said, that's your establishing shot. You've just edited in your head an establishing shot.
Right.
With your mind, you looked and saw two people standing there, one with the pen. No one said anything. You've created an establishing shot. Now, character one says something. He says, hey, loser, where'd your eyes go? They're like, him. You just made your second cut. He drew his attention. Catch this pen. If you don't, I'm going to beat you up. Now where does your eye go? Some of them said, back to both of them. Some of them said, I looked at the other person. Okay, so there's the threat. I'm going to beat you up. Then you want the reaction. So you looked at the other part. What are they going to do about it?
Right.
I said, so now when they launch back like this and they throw, what are you looking at? The pen. And then the air, I go, okay, now it's coming true, but what are you looking at? The person is going to catch it. In this case, person B drops it. And then, then you want to know, uh-oh. And I said, where are you looking? At the guy who threatened him. Right. So you're making these cuts all the time in your head. And each one of those is an emotional beat. And it's part of that dance. So a lot of times in that natural thing, what do you want to see as you're cutting it? What's that feeling? Like someone says, I really, really love you. Then you want to be like, oh, what's the response to this wonderful statement? I hate your guts, you stupid idiot. Get away from me. Oh, no, that's horrible. Does it hurt the other person? And I look, so
right.
That's the same thing when I'm directing. What's important to the story? What am I trying to communicate and tell? And what's that gut feeling? And a lot of editing and a lot of directing is a gut feeling. It's just understanding people. And you can do simple principles like this, like that with the pen, to determine what am I going to be looking at? Like what is important to the audience and what's important to me as I'm doing that story. And that can help you with your shot list. So look at your script, see your two people side by side, read the script, say the line out loud. Mm-hmm. Where does your eye look? Imagine those two people are standing in front of you. Like, John, I really think you're the best babysitter I've ever had. And then John, okay, looking at John. And then the boy's like, well, you're not a baby. You're older than I am. You're 34 and I'm 28. So whatever that is. And then you can kind of map it out in your mind. What's important. What do you want to look at in that scene? You capture those really important moments, circle them. That's a very important moment. That's a critical beat in this scene. And I think that's a great way to approach those pieces. And it really brings something, it begins to help you to understand that editing and directing process and working with actors. I think working with actors is the thing that most gives anxiety to most directors. Because, you can think like, oh, I can see the shot, I can do this, but I have to talk to these people and I have to communicate an idea and I have to tell them what to do. And a lot of times actors don't like to be told what to do most of the time. Like you go over here, say this, stand here, do this way. You're dealing with people. It's not cattle. It's not like your dog. You're like, sit, roll over, bark.
No.
Some people treat actors that way. And I just think it's kind of shameful to treat somebody that way. They're people. They have feelings and emotions. What do most actors want? Most actors want to know that they're doing a good job.
Validation.
Yeah, that they don't look like an idiot, that they're doing a good job, and that they're delivering what you want.
Yes.
Like the director's vision. Very important to actors. They are always asking these questions. Do I look like an idiot? Am I delivering this character well? And is the director happy with what I've given him? Mm-hmm. I like to give that feedback. If you're about to correct or critique an actor, I really like to do the sandwich.
The sandwich, yes.
Yeah. The criticism
compliment,
sandwich.
Compliment, criticism, compliment.
Yes, it works amazing. Hey,
yes.
That was a really good delivery. I loved how you approached Susie here when you told her this. I could really see that you were hurt by what she said, and what you gave was incredible. I have a question for you. When she told you this, what did you feel? Well, I was upset about it. I didn't see that. You were upset? Did it make you mad? Yeah, it made me mad when she responded this way. Hey, let's go for that then. Push into that. If you felt that way, let's see it. I think that'd be really great because after you just gave that incredible thing, I really felt that emotion. Let's flip it on its head and hit that angry part. It's amazing. And then I followed up with, I know this scene is looking great. I'm really, really excited about what you guys are doing. Good job. So then that way I've delivered something, and they also know I recognize something positive and good that they've contributed. I'm questioning to try to bring out, I want the answer to come from them.
Right.
Because if I'm like, be angry. Well, what is that like? Some people, when they're angry, they're like this. Some people are like, some people do the stone cold, like, it's like, cold shoulder. It's terrible. So what does that mean for each person? Like,
Right.
So you have to kind of guide your actors in terms of how you see it. And then when you're working with them, it's like, when they give you something magical that you didn't expect, acknowledge it. Be excited about those magical moments because you didn't expect those. And the audience is going to feel that same way. Yeah. And when you're working with an actor, I do it like I'm an audience. I'm watching what they give me, the performance, and I ooh and ah when I'm oohed and awed. And I know that when I see those moments, the audience is also going to see those. They're going to love it, and they're going to feel it. They're going to get the goosebumps all over, just like I got. That's excellent. That's excellence in directing, and it's about serving. You're serving your actors. I'm serving my team, and I'm serving my audience with my idea. It's a benefit. I get to have a great idea. People work on it to make it happen, but I get to serve my team through that process. And I think if you do that, you're going to find people that consistently want to work with you, and you're going to get results that I think you really like and your audience is going to enjoy. So
awesome.
That's kind of how I like to work when I'm directing.
Cool.
And what do you think about working with the director and your DP? What's important to you as a DP to know from your director? Because sometimes you ever had a director that's like, you're doing the job for them.
Yeah. No. Like you said earlier, the vision and the shot list, and sometimes even like you said, when the actors want to discover something, sometimes you want the freedom to be free as well and explore the scene. You know, at least have a take where you can explore the scene yourself and capture what you feel is going on. Yeah. So, because if it's just you're not a robot, so you don't always want to go directly by the shot list. You'll get that coverage, you know. So I'm kind of like, you know, trust me to get the coverage. You know, we're a team, we work together. So it's very communication between the director and the DP is very, very, very important.
Yeah, and you're not working with robots; you're working with people.
Yeah, exactly.
If you give them an opportunity to excel in what they're working on and you're trusting some of their choices that they're making, it empowers your team to help support you in telling the story. And they're more likely to come to you with an idea, or they're more likely to put in a little bit extra effort.
Yeah.
You know, hey, we're going to have to go over an hour today. I apologize. You know, we can compensate you, but you're going to get that same level of energy for a team that's felt appreciated and valued the entire time. You're going to get the energy to the very end of the project.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get people that are sitting there like, you know, I hate you, you stupid idiot. Like, give me my paycheck. I want to go home. I'm not staying.
Right.
You know, so respecting people and I think just loving people. I mean, why do you tell stories? Because you love stories. You're telling stories about people. You have to love people to tell stories. Like, why do you tell a story if you don't care about people? I don't understand. Same way, all the people that work with me, it's just, I respect them. I care about them. I love them. And the fact that they're on the set with me is, they don't have to be doing that. They can be somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, but they choose to be working with me and partnering with me on the project that's my vision. And I have to respect that and have to treat them well. So, and that goes for everybody, from my PAs to my producers who I love with ding, 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 big hearts. Like, every director needs to find a producer who is just, they're angels.
Right.
They are literally angels. I am convinced. I mean, they have demon horns that they pull out when they tell you, no, you can't have 2 white elephants in this scene. You can only have 1. I don't like them when they do that kind of stuff, but
funny stuff. That's awesome. So yes, the directorial process by Jason Crossman.
Yes, and my way is not necessarily the right way. These are just ways that I'm telling you, just from my experience and from having worked with tons and tons of directors and students, ways that tend to have seemed to have worked best on sets for a numerous number of people.
Which is great for any director's toolbox. As you were saying earlier, you know, the more experiences, the better, because you've got another tool to pull out and use.
Mm-hmm. It sharpens and shapes you so that you can then turn around and sharpen and shape your projects.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, we sharpen each other on the set. That's a bumper sticker.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah. No, we that's, I always say that we sharpen each other when we're working on a project. And
absolutely.
we don't always agree, but we always respect each other's visions.
Yeah.
and the project's better for it.
Yeah, as long as you do what I say, it ends up looking great.
Yeah. And yeah, same way. Yeah, as long as you do what I say,
And what is it? Remember that one time we needed a dolly shot and we took the drone. You just handheld it. You just handheld the drone.
Yes. And the drone's got a gimbal,
A gimbal on it.
So
Let's
yeah,
just
we
use
didn't
the
have
drone.
the gimbal, so we didn't have a Ronin at the time. So yeah, just let's
That was the early days of the
very
drones.
early. Very
That was like some of the first
early.
drones, and I was like,
Right. But I had a 3-axis gimbal. Yeah.
It worked great. The shot
Yeah.
was awesome. It was like you just handheld it. It wasn't the drone wasn't even on. That was so funny. There was no flying. All right, my man. Well, another excellent episode. We thought it was excellent, but we want to know what you thought about the show. Please comment, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're following us on Spotify or on iTunes or everywhere else that you can find, please leave comments if you like the show. Things you're looking for. What would you like to see in the upcoming show? We're excited for our guests that are coming up, and we have a long stream of them.
And next week you'll find out where he got all his interesting DNA from.
Yes, I'm just letting you know. Like I think if he has the reason why I didn't have him on the show earlier is because people might want to replace me, and just have him do it instead. So
Could never replace you, Jason.
he's good enough.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, stay tuned for another episode of Director Dude. Of Entertainment Dudes.
Entertainment Dudes. See you then.
See you later.
Spasiba. Das Vidanya.
I think you say Das Vidanya.
Das Vidanya. Oh, let's do some German too.
Did I
Arbeitersyn.
Did I spit on ya? Isn't that what it? Shoot.
Das Vidanya, arrivederci, hasta la vista, ciao, goodbye, g'day, aloha, adios, sayonara, and see ya! Entertainment Dude.